Hello, everyone. Last video from me of the week. I know you probably want more. But before I start, I just want to say hello and how are you? And I'm sad to be missing this with you. And have you thanked our sub, Alexandra, today? Our wonderful, wonderful sub. If you have not, please make sure to thank her right now, before you leave the classroom, every time you see her. Alexandra, thank you so much. We are so indebted to you to helping us keep our ship afloat. This video is going to be a little bit about the transition from Act 2 to Act 3 and a little bit about Act 3, Scene 1, because so much is happening now. The play is really underway. If any of you have fallen behind in the reading, no need to have a confessional moment right now with Alexandra, but I will say that you have a week off, over a week off coming up, and you can use that time really wisely to catch up on your reading, and you will have a reading assignment, or you do have a reading assignment already to be completed over that time, but it's certainly not one that takes you 10 days. So make a commitment inside your mind and heart to catch up. That will be a really great idea for you for us taking back up this play when we return from break. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We are at the hinge of the play, if you will. Act 2 leaves Hamlet in this restless, frustrated state. He knows something's wrong. He's partly convinced Claudius is guilty, but he still doesn't have proof. And Shakespeare hands him a tool to get to that proof, and that is the introduction of the players or actors, right? This traveling band of actors that has come onto the scene. I want to say something for a minute about Hamlet's need of proof. On the one hand, we want him to need proof. We want our young modern prince, who is not a fighter, but a poet and an intellectual, and has not chosen the path of being a warrior. We don't want him to be brash and violent and impulsive and just go ahead and kill the king. We want him to be thoughtful. And he is being thoughtful, and he doesn't want to just go and kill the king. But does he believe in what the ghost has told him, and that it's his father telling him that he's going to burn in eternal hellfire unless he avenges his name, unless young Hamlet avenges his father's name? I think he does believe that. I think he knows that he's going to have to kill the king. I think he knows that he's probably going to be facing his own death, and he's stalling a little bit. And one of the ways he's stalling is saying, I need more proof. Once I have proof that Claudius is really guilty, then I can go through with killing him. So we both accept it and doubt it a little bit. It's both. It may be true, and it may be also a stalling technique. Anyway, back to the players. The players arrive in Act 2, and they are, in many ways, a mirror. Right? They're wandering from town to town performing stories that remind audiences of their own lives, and they construct themselves and their truth through theater. The way people do, right? We construct ourselves and our truth through literature, through theater, through art. It's part of what helps us construct our humanity and see humanity in others. And so Shakespeare is doing to that as he's creating a play within the play. And Hamlet reacts to these players in this really intense emotional way because they can summon up real tears for fictional characters while he can't bring himself to avenge his own father's death. So he's really sparked by their arrival. He suddenly sees performance as a strategy, not just entertainment. But here is a sticking point for me. If you do a close read, hint, hint, of Hamlet's reaction to the players, the soliloquy that begins, "Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I." That soliloquy is sparked by him having just watched a really moving performance, a fictional performance, but a moving one on stage. And he is comparing himself and his own inability to act to avenge his father's death. He's contrasting that with the actor's ability to bring forth great emotion. for a cause that's not even real. That's his contrast in his mind. But do we see why this is ironic, if that's a word for it, or maybe confusing? Because the actor's job is actually to perform, is to act something that is not real, and to bring about great emotion and to make his audience believe that it is true when it's not literally true. However, Hamlet's job is to avenge his father's death in real life, although it's an actor on stage playing Hamlet, so it's not in real life. The meta levels at work again. But why is he comparing himself to an actor and finding the actor's performance to be more inspiring than his own ability to act? Those two things are not the same, is what I'm trying to say. Those two things are not the same. This is when the play really starts to kind of collapse on itself, and we start to see, in my read, Hamlet start to lose track of what performance, what the blurring the lines between performance and reality. I mean, we've seen that from the beginning of the play, but we really start to see it now. So back to the play within a play, The Murder of Gonzago, right? That's the play that everyone keeps talking about. It's an existing drama that the actors are already performing, but Hamlet jumps in and asks them to add a few lines of his own, right? So this makes him a director. He has jumped in and become a director to the actors, and he's directing this play within our larger play. Are you following? And he thinks that his direction of these actors' performance will elicit a response from Claudius that will prove his guilt or innocence, right? So the story, or at least Hamlet's shaping of the story of the murder of Gonzago, parallels the murder of Hamlet, right? The sleeping king, the poison poured into his ear, you know, the usurping relative, a queen who may or may not be complicit with the actions, right? It's a dramatized reenactment of the crime that the ghost described to Hamlet. And Hamlet's big strategy here is that he's going to watch Claudius watch this reenactment and judge Claudius's guilt based on his reaction. So he's going to judge the guilt of the king based on the king's reaction, which could, by the way, itself be a performance, because we perform reactions all the time, right? This does not seem like a foolproof plan to me, but here we are, all right? He does show some strategy with this plan. He shows also that he's wrestling with doubt. He wants to believe the ghost. He also knows apparitions can be misleading, and he's scared, right? Let's not forget that he's scared and he's tortured and he's really, really apprehensive about his ability to act and to be decisive. And remember what we said about men. We said that patriarchy constructs men to be many things, and one of those things is decisive, right? Act now, think later. We already talked about this with Oedipus and Agamemnon. We talked about this at the start of Hamlet, and now Hamlet's finding himself unable to act precipitously. He is stalling, and he is not sure how he can take action. So as we head into Act 3, I want you to be watching for a couple of things. I want you to watch for how Shakespeare uses acting and watching, well, I would say directing, acting, and watching as an audience as a way to expose truths and maybe even to obfuscate truths, right? What truths are revealed and which are concealed, and what this moment does to Hamlet's resolve, right? And so let's now transition into Act 3, Scene 1, which is what you were supposed to have read for today. And this is arguably the most famous of all the scenes of the play, right? It's really worth grounding what's actually happening in Act 3, Scene 1. First of all, everyone's spying on everyone else, right? It's a total surveillance state, hence the security cameras, the surveillance cameras that we saw in that one version that we watched together, a little bit of together. Claudius and Polonius set up Ophelia as bait so they can watch how Hamlet behaves, right? They want to know whether he's mad because of his love for her or if something bigger is going on. Hamlet knows that he's being watched by them. And so the whole scene has this kind of performative edge. He's not just talking to Ophelia, he's also putting on a show for his hidden audience. And he's also aware that Ophelia is setting him up. A further betrayal, by the way. The to be or not to be soliloquy is featured in this scene, and it's not random. It's a lot of things at once. It is a personal existential moment, but is it also part performance? Hamlet's thinking about whether life is worth enduring pain and injustice, betrayal, grief. He's wondering about our fear of death and where it comes from, but he's also aware that he may have an audience. And so depending on the version that you see of this play, sometimes it's directed that he's actually speaking these lines out loud and that they're not just his inner thoughts and feelings, and being listened to as he speaks them aloud. Different directors make different choices. But it's certainly a philosophical reflection under a lot of pressure, a lot of existential pressure. There's also the break with Ophelia in the famous nunnery scene, right? Hamlet's treatment of Ophelia is despicable. It's so harsh. This is their big breakup scene. But he's also acting, right? He's protecting her, he's lashing out, he's unraveling, and he's acting, all of the above. Interpretations can vary, and we can have multiple interpretations that we hold at the same time that seem to contradict each other. But one of the key takeaways here is that this is the final and official rupture of their relationship, right? Ophelia is left devastated. Polonius becomes even more convinced that Hamlet is mad for love of Ophelia. Claudius seems to not agree with that theory and sees something much darker in Hamlet's behavior, right? And it's Claudius's reaction that we have to pay the closest attention to, right? He's actually shaken by this, by the witnessing of this scene. He definitely senses a threat in Hamlet. He seems to have sensed a threat in Hamlet all along, but he immediately shifts to the defensive. He needs to get Hamlet away from Denmark. First, he wanted to keep him in Denmark nearby, right? And now he wants to get rid of Hamlet, right? Claudius has finally officially stopped underestimating him, and he really sees Hamlet as a direct threat. And this scene, Act 3, Scene 1, sets up the play within a play, right? It creates the kind of emotional and political pressure cooker that's going to explode in Act 3, Scene 2. Everyone's suspicious. Everyone is watching. Everyone is lying. And that is what basically Scene 1 in a nutshell. It is so rich. It's so rich for close reading. And you're actually going to spend an entire period, not today, but next time, looking back to look forward, to do a lot of close reading and get a lot of things in your composition book. So make sure you're taking notes in your text so that you have a lot to transfer. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful class and have a wonderful break. And I'll see you soon.